Hello students, once again I welcome you all. In the previous class we discussed Nizim Ezekiel's very Indian poem in Indian English. So probably you might have understood the kind of theme which is adopted by the poet and how effectively the poet has presented the concept in front of us all. So in the previous class, I could focus on the critical appreciation and the summary of the poem. So now, holistically, you are ready with the poem. I mean to say, you are familiar with the poet, that is Nizim Ezekiel, his literary craft or his artistic creations, his literary contributions. Similarly, you are familiar to the structure of the poem, the division of the poem, and subsequently, you are also familiar to the features of Indian English, and more particularly, Babu English or Pidgin English. Subsequently, I recited the poem for your convenience, that is, very Indian poem in Indian English written by Nissim Ezekiel, and the entire poem I recited for your better understanding, and afterwards I tried to summarize the poem because the critical understanding and the summary is really essential for every individual in order to understand the actual crux of the poem. So in this class, probably this will be the last period on this particular poem. Now, I will just make a few critical comments about it. When you look at this poem with a different perspectives, you will realize that we can interpret this poem as a poem reflecting the Indian living conditions and standards. It is a poem that talks about the Indian ancient wisdom and values. It talks about the international scenario and the world conflicts today. Similarly, it talks about the Indian solidarity and unity in diversity. And subsequently, we come to know the common mistakes which are specifically highlighted by the poet in the course of this particular poem. And of course, I will try to focus on this particular aspect more in this class. So let us talk in general about the Indian living conditions which are presented by the poet here. As you know very well, right in the beginning of the poet has put in the effort to portray the Indian living conditions there. He is trying to compare the present scenario in India with the scenario of the past. In one of the expressions, the poet also says, with this context, that the India of the Easter years is no longer be seen here nowadays. So that is the worry of the poet. He is expressing his concern for that. How the India or the Indians are going through a kind of phase. The people before the independence and the people after the independence. What he personally feels that the people have mistaken the concept of freedom And now they feel that following the Western people or following the Britishers blindly is nothing but the real freedom. But this is not the fact. The poet is also expressing his worry about the present generation and the trend that they have adopted. In one of the expressions, the poet says, fashion and foreign things only. It means the current generation, the new generation, the young generation is blindly following and adhering the standards of the foreign people, the standards of the Western people in particular. So this aspect is quite a considerable aspect, what I personally feel. And subsequently, in one of the expressions, you can holistically look at that the poet is also expressing his concern for the process of modernization and the process of industrialization, which has speeded up the process of change in India. So he is really regretting for the modern outlook of the people. Instead of being more scientific, pragmatic, and practical, the people are mistaking the word modern or modernism, and they are simply following the Western people. So this can be the interpretation of one of the sections of the poem, what I personally feel. Now I would like to talk on the ancient Indian values and the wisdom that the poet is talking about. If you really look into the text of the poem, you will realize that the poet is giving a lot of importance to Gandhi and his activities that he has done in the world and in India also. Of course, he is directly or indirectly giving full credit to Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, that is Mahatma Gandhi, for getting freedom and making India free from the clutches of the British people. So here he proclaims that he is one of the followers of Mahatma Gandhi and his principles. Actually, peace, mercy, piety, non-violence, these are not the modern concepts. These are the concepts which are here in this soil for the last many hundred years or many centuries, I would say. Still, when the poet is going to mention this peace and non-violence, of course, he is trying to give the due credit to M.K. Gandhi only. But here, he is talking about the Indian wisdom, which is 100% correct according to the narrator of the poet. And so he is promoting this idea that the young generation that is now following the westernization and the Western ideologies, instead of following the Western ideology, the current generation or the young generation should follow and adhere the Indian wisdom and Indian values. That is the minimum expectation of the poet or the narrator of the poem here. Similarly, he talks about the students as well, because Indian values, Indian wisdom, Indian culture, and its influence on everybody should be a natural one. But here the poet is trying to tell you that the students are unrest, they are in the anxious mood, they do not know whom to follow and what to do and how to do. Unnecessarily, they are getting into the petty agitations and mean things. So instead of doing that, whatever is their main role, actual role as a student in the studenthood, they should pursue the knowledge only. Okay. So in order to pursue the knowledge, they should be more focused as a student. So here the poet is also going to refer to the statements that of Antony from Julius Caesar. Actually, Antony makes an appeal to the Roman people and the Roman mob that they should compare and contrast the past and the present. It means they should compare and contrast the regime of Julius Caesar and the kind of thing which is done by the conspirators by assassinating Julius Caesar. So he is trying to provocate all the Romans so that they should think on his lines and they should be able to support Antony afterwards. So these are the things that we need to take into consideration whenever we talk about the Indian values, Indian ancient wisdom. And the poet is also very specific in this respect, because he also happens to talk about the Indian cuisine and its comparison with the Western world. Because the examples like the cup of or a glass of lassi and a sip of wine, he is trying to talk about it very strongly, and he is promoting the idea that in our environmental conditions we need to be Indian even in the respect of our cuisine and the eating habits. But whereas the young generation and the people are concerned, now they are being fond of drinking wine, and it has become a style segment. So this also he is going to denounce very strongly. And since he is the follower of Gandhi, so he has never tested a sip of wine, and he always prefers to have a glass of lassi. So this is how he also talks about the Indian cuisine as well. The subsequent idea that you find in the poem is the international scenario and the international relations. Actually, right from the beginning, the narrator of the poem is advocating the idea of peace and non-violence. He is also trying to say that there are many countries like America, that is USA, United States of America, and then your USSR, nowadays we call it Russia. They were very much involved in the collection of weapons. So there was a kind of competition between these two polars of the power, and consequently it was creating a kind of unrest in the entire world. Similarly, the narrator is also talking about India as a country, okay, and its own approach towards the future. But similarly, the narrator is also talking about the hostility of Pakistan and China. Here, the narrator happens to mention that we should have one simple principle: live and let live others. India has never invaded any other country ever. India has never imposed any war against any country ever. We never initiated at least this kind of thing. But whereas immediately after the freedom, Pakistan imposed war upon India. Again in 1965, another war was there between India and Pakistan. In between, in 1962, China said Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai, and they also imposed one more war against India. So here, these international relations, and more specifically, Indian relations with the neighborhood countries, the poet or the narrator is expressing his own concern. So he says that there should be the atmosphere of peace and non-violence all over the world. All countries should have a simple approach of living, that they should live themselves and let others live as well, and that too without any conflict and confrontation. Similarly, when he talks about India and the Indian subcontinent, the narrator is expecting that there should be a power balance, and there should be a kind of peace and non-violence, the adherence of peace and non-violence. Then only the things will move on in the right direction. And later on, towards the end of the poem, the narrator is found to talk about the unity in diversity. When I talked about the summary and the critical interpretation of the poem in the previous lecture, I talked about it. India is a country. Within the country itself, we can find a number of cultures. Okay, and number of people, number of languages, number of their own traditions and customs. So here we have a lot of variety within the country, and that's why one of the most prominent principle of India as a country is, we find here the unity in diversity. And so the narrator is also talking about it. He is also trying to recommend that the unity in diversity is the fundamental principle of our country, and the entire world also should follow it. Here, many communities live together even though they are different in caste, creed, religion, color, language, region, belongings, customs, traditions, rituals, okay, and ceremonies, and so on and so on. But still we happily live together here. And one more, expectation and positivism of this narrator is very fantastic. He says that there will be a day in the near future that we will experience Ram Rajya in India. Okay, so maybe for some critics and some interpreters, this Ram Rajya concept seems to be the concept of an ideal state. But if you go back to the culture of the country, you will find that Ram as an icon, Maryada Purushottam as an icon. If you really look into the life of or study the life of Ram, Sita, and all the adventures that he has done in the course of time, if you see that he has created his own image in such a way that the people started treating him for generations together as an ideal personality. And the kind of regime or the kind of state that he run, that is Ayodhya Nagari, so it was said like that was the place where no one was unhappy. So that was the place where everybody was given equal opportunities. Nobody was in distress over there. But here, we need to understand that in the modern context, if you try to understand the concept of Ram Rajya or the Aristotle's concept of ideal state, I think we can slightly change the perception here. The country or a state that has equal opportunity for all, equal work, or depending on your caliber, the work for all, and when the people live happily without any conflict, if at all such kind of state we could create, that would be a kind of Ram Rajya. So this narrator seems to be very, very optimistic, what I personally feel, and very friendly. He is trying to say towards the end of the poem that all of us are the visitors to this earth, to this planet. One day we made an entry, and some other day or one day, the day coming, we may have an exit. Okay, so this is how everybody is a visitor on this planet. So we came here, we have to play our role, we have to perform our duties, and one day we have to make an exit. So that is how is the life, and one has to accept it. So very fantastically or very interestingly, this narrator has promoted his ideas. But now I would like to talk in particular with possible details on the common mistakes which are highlighted in the poem by the poet Nizam Ezekiel. If you see, you will also find that there is an influence on grammar, and that is a very common, quite common kind of feature or a characteristic of this poem. So it is often frowned upon as wrong. People use English, they use Pidgin English, Babu English, or else, they corrupt the English in such a way to their own convenience. They don't bother with whether they are using correct English or wrong English, but they do continuously use it. But eventually, it becomes a regular practice and the new language variety or a variant. If at all, one wrong thing I keep on telling you for 100 times, maybe next time you feel that whatever wrong I said is right. So that kind of thing is going on here, what your poet Nizam Ezekiel is thinking of. So the reduplication of verbs like fighting, that is really very surprising. When you read the poem also, you feel very awkward to read when the same word is repeated twice or thrice for no reason and having the same context, meaning, connotative, denotative, meaning, everything. Similarly, in the entire poem, you will find that either there is a lack of article or there is a use of article unnecessarily. Both the things we experience, and that is the very practice of the Indian people. Where the article is really necessary, the Indian English people don't use. And whereas you don't need the article at all, forcefully you induct the article in between. So that is one more speciality of the Indian people when they use English language, right? One more thing that you can notice is we always get confused between the use of article. Where to use the indefinite article and when to use the definite article, that is always a confusion in the mind of the Indian peoples. And sometimes when the foreigner, especially a British person, listens to us, he is always trying to decode your language in such a manner that why the person is unnecessarily using article or where it is really required not using the article. So they are always getting confused. In one of the expressions, the poet says, or the narrator says, one glass lassi. Actually, one glass lassi is a pure translation of some Indian language into English. If at all you want to say in the correct English, you should say that a glass of lassi. You never say like one glass lassi, a glass of lassi, isn't it? So here we need to be very careful about the use of articles, right? One more thing you find here, that the people are, whenever pronouns are needed, people don't use it. And when it is really not required, the people make it obligatory and forcefully induce it. So the omission and addition of pronouns is one more feature of Indian people. And one more aspect that I would like to mention here, actually it is not found in the poem, but it is noticed. The pronunciation part is also very considerable. Actually, the poet has highlighted only the mistakes which are done by the people in the written manner here in the poem. But when you listen to the Indian people speaking in English, you will find that the people are sometimes wrongly pronouncing certain words. So that pronunciation also disturbs a lot, especially to a British person or a person who knows good English or correct English. He will be unable to understand you. So these aspects are very critical, what I personally feel. But one thing is here, we need to accept that Ezekiel has uses Indian English or Babu Angrezi in this poem and depicted this one as a characteristic of Indian attitude for using English. So this aspect is also very, very important, what I personally feel. Now to conclude, I would like to say, Nizam Ezekiel, as you know, occupies a unique position among Indo-Anglican poets of the postmodern era. He has his own status. He has his own status or prestige or an identity in Indian writing in English, especially poetry section. Here, if you see, Nizam Ezekiel has opposed the idealism and romanticism of the earlier group of the Indian writers writing in English. So here he tried to look at any typical Indian situation with an Indian attitude, with a novel and a dynamic Indian insight. So this sort of thing we need to segregate as far as the other Indian writers are concerned and Nizam Ezekiel is concerned. Similarly, he has very cleverly manipulated Indian English to bring out the Indian worldview. So that is one more very positive aspect of the writings of Nizam Ezekiel I could notice in the course of reading. So here, last but not the least, I would like to say that Nizam Ezekiel has used irony. The difference between the difference between appearance and reality means irony. This irony as a weapon to depict the characteristic features of Indian English and Indian attitude both. So this is how is the interpretation or the critical analysis or the critical comments as a teacher on this particular poem. So let us see now how the things really move on, and that's all from my end as far as this poem written by Nizam Ezekiel is concerned.